All right, 6:32. I'll call the special meeting of the Board of Trustees. First up is modifications and changes to the agenda. I don't think, yes, we do. We have to add an executive.
For personnel.
Executive to personnel. I think I need a motion to add an executive.
I'll make a motion to add an executive to tonight's meeting.
Second. Leonard with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, that's it for that. Public comment. Is there anybody from the public that wants to speak on an item not on the agenda? Okay, hearing no comments, I will move on to the Downtown Transportation Fund Grant application request. So,
I guess I'll tee you up and then we can kind of go from there. Most important is going to probably be next to Shaylee. Everybody has the most recent draft of the very last page is the updated budget that has gone up a little bit since our last conversation. We've had Gary review it as far as prices and the timelines that for the hours that we're expecting the staff to contribute to this. Everything else has been updated. They also
so this last sheet is just the village's obligations.
no, this is the whole
It's a whole
grant.
project.
And then I will get to
I'm looking at the
page
village's.
17, or no, excuse me, page 16 kind of breaks it out where our in-kind demo and installation match is 1,300 from the village, and then they changed the wording for the cash match to be pledged because we don't actually have those funds yet. The other thing that doesn't look like, and I didn't notice this earlier, Elizabeth, is you still have John on here that needed to be updated to Sam to be able to sign off on that, or the contact. So we'll need to make sure that gets updated.
Could you point that out? Because I couldn't find what you were, where you were referring to.
Project review sheet,
Oh,
and the packets, the third
Yep.
one, it still has John listed, and that'll need to be updated just to reflect Sam for the time being.
gotcha. I was looking in the application.
And then the only thing, but it doesn't look like he has to sign that page to before I get, that just needs to be updated. And at this point, unless the trustees have more questions, I'm gonna hand it over to Shaylee to talk about planning commission for last night.
So to give you a short version of the long story, the planning commission did vote to approve or recommend that the trustees apply for this grant, but with specific conditions. Those conditions are that you follow the AOT recommendations that were given for the grant. Putting planters behind something like plastic boards. Can't remember all the specifics, but moving it further down towards the intersection so it wasn't removing parking spaces was an issue. But there is a handout. Do they all have this same copy?
I just handed it over.
Okay, yeah, so that one, the recommendations were in AOT. The other condition was doing this project in 2 phases. So there was discussion last night about instead of doing this project with the bump outs, just moving the crosswalk. And the planning commission members, there was some discussion on that, members of the EI. It sounded like there wasn't interest in moving forward with the project unless the bump outs were included in the project. We kind of, I don't want to speak for the whole board, but it sounded like there was an agreement that if the bump outs weren't included in the project, there wouldn't have been so much discussion and reluctance on the project. So we tried to come to a compromise. So we recommended phases, getting specifics for the size of the planters, the location of them, how far into the road they can be or should be, We talked about last night, there's a lot of other towns that have these planters and bump outs, so if there's specific guidance from other towns or even the state of how they should look and what those planters should be, we felt more comfortable moving forward if there was specific guidance, because last night when we were talking about it, no one really knew the size or shape or anything to do with what the planters will actually look like. So that was a concern. So we decided that one of the conditions should be that those need to be figured out prior to them being installed. I know the $2,000 that was pledged by Rise VT is intended to be used for those planters, and that has to be used by a date in June. I don't know if that money can be reallocated to something else if we can't, or you can't, or whoever can't come up with the specific guidance for those planters by that deadline. But that is basically what we recommended. The last condition was that no major changes are made tonight. You'll see on page 24, the process, and maybe some of you will remember, we brought this up when we came to the trustees meeting last week. The process should have been that the trustees reviewed this grant and made all of these minor details, sorted everything out, and then brought it to the planning commission. So that the planning commission truly did have a final draft to approve. And I know with the time constraint that didn't happen. So we understand that, but at the end of the day, we're signing a document that's not complete. There's still going to be changes made, and the board wasn't comfortable with that. So the last condition is that no major changes are made by the trustees on this final document that was presented to us last night.
Okay, one question is that Rise Vermont at 2,000 from them, that can be used towards the match, correct? It doesn't have to be specifically used for planters.
We were just told that the $2,000 was intended to be used for the planters.
So the conversation, I think, was because that money has to be spent by June, and this whole project isn't going to be done until probably the fall, that we could purchase ahead of time the planters in order to use those funds. So that still potentially could happen as long as the specifics are figured out by that time frame. But just there's two different pots of money for this and two different timelines of when the money needs to be spent. I think it's like the end of June, all of the reporting, everything has to be spent and done on the Rise side. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Heather, because I think you've been more involved in that.
The biggest thing in that report, with that map, the overlay map from John Kaplan, he's the pedestrian safety guy. I had reached out to him and got that information because, to provide these guys with the necessary stuff that they needed. And the biggest concern he had was not using planters as traffic deterrents, using actual reflective bollards, or whatever you want to call them. Not to discourage that, just we put that behind that and keep those plastic bollards out.
Yeah.
So
that was my next question. Those vertical delineators, are those removable? So that'd be a technical question that's going to happen in the winter.
They are.
right, I would guess.
Yes.
They are.
Sorry, Elizabeth, were they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
So this would be
yeah.
fair weather project.
So I reached out to Swanton that I used to work for because they have bollards along the main street in downtown. So the pricing is based off of the company that they used. So I added into the narrative that reflective bollards would be installed. And I looked at kind of the map that came from Du Bois and King, and I estimated that there would be 3 around each set of planters. So I think I went with 12 bollards. So you'll see the price of $432. That includes those 12 bollards that would go around the planters, and they are removable. And then just to kind of finish up, to pick up on what Shaylee said, I did change the timeline because originally we had put the bump outs to be done by October 2023. I moved it back to 2024, which is the same time the crosswalk, only because we have until April 25th of 2025 to finish the grant. So if we are going to do the bollards and the bump outs, They would need to be done by April 25th of 2025, and I made it October because I didn't figure that your highway crew was going to be out working in the winter. The other thing I think to keep in mind is if you decide not to do something, just because you're requesting the funds to do this, if you opt not to do something, that's okay. You're not bound by doing any of this. Through the grant, you just return the money that you're not going to spend.
I have a question on the estimate. I didn't see any engineering on the estimate, or like engineering the 1 on 20 slope, and I didn't see any engineering fees there, to do that. And just to upgrade it, I don't think the village can do the concrete work. We do all the demo, but we don't have the curb forms and, the stuff to do concrete sidewalk. I think that had to be contracted out. We could do the demo, remove the sidewalk, remove the curb, remove the signs back in, but to do the concrete, I think we need higher concrete to a professional.
We're talking just to be
The
2
sidewalk.
slabs per side. One. to
Well,
fill the
it's gonna be
existing
1 on
sidewalk.
20, it's gonna be 1 on 20, 1 foot and 20 feet, for handicap, so you gotta
Oh,
slope it down.
right.
You gotta slope it down to go across the road, so it's gonna invest probably at least 10 feet, at least 10, 15 feet both ways. Depending on the elevation, I guess,
Right.
without knowing what the elevation drop is, but
So 5 per side,
at least.
plus, are you gonna leave the existing one? You wouldn't remove where the sidewalk is now.
Well, you have to take
You have to take the street entrance out.
yeah, you have to bring the
And
sidewalk down,
Right, so you'd also need to remove that one.
Right.
but you have to bring the sidewalk down into a ramp to go across the road. If they 1 on 20 for the handicap, ADA compliant, so I think it's 1 on 20.
It's what you were saying, Sam, was that the spot that has the crosswalk stuff actually has to turn into a regular
Right.
road.
Right,
Right, yes, yeah.
right.
So it had two slopes, it would only need to have one now, we need to work that one out.
So I put them back of being flat and one over being ramp.
Elizabeth, was any of that factored into the budget estimate?
The engineering was factored in. I honestly, I did not do the budget portion. I do think that it was assumed that the village would do it. I honestly can't tell you what it does to the expense, if you have to contract that out.
But the village would do the engineering or doing the labor?
No,
removing the
The
curb?
installation.
Actual concrete work.
Was, so materials and installation for the concrete was not included?
No, it was included. The only, the engineering and the materials were included, but it was based on the assumption that the installation would be done by, I believe, that's my understanding, that the installation would be done by the village.
You think that 8,000 could cover labor and material?
And where was the engineering factored in? Is
Yeah,
that just,
yeah,
where, Elizabeth, where was the engineering factored into these budget figures?
I mean,
That's in the
last year concrete.
It's in the 8,000, okay.
Yeah.
Like 50 bucks?
Well, that was for everything. $50 foot, that's concrete removal, that was a demo, new concrete, asphalt, the whole thing. I think it costs about $30 a foot.
So it probably would be this year, I'm assuming with the way prices are going.
It's about $30 a foot to do the concrete. It's just
Oh,
for.
okay.
It was. It was
Right about
in the
eight.
center.
Right,
$8,
right.
you know, about 7 something of a square foot, so for 5 foot sidewalk. So, you know, 7 times 5 is $35 a foot. But problem is it's small quantity, so they may charge you more because they get come here. You have a minimal load concrete, which you have a minimum load of 4 yards to buy it. So you pay more.
So do you think that 8,000 would be a good number?
I think it'd be all right.
For engineering
No,
and.
just a con.
Well, the engineering is factored.
The engineering is
it's
factored into
8,000.
that 8,000,
I'm guessing the injury probably cost you 1,500 to 2,000.
and that leaves you only about
So I'm
$6,000.
gonna do a rough guesstimate here now. So we see what 10 feet on one side that we replace and replace the one that's already at the crossing, put 10 feet there to replace, or put back to, normal,
You would just have one slope to figure out, not two.
like, so replace
We
the
gotta replace the
other side,
the
right?
existing
Take the
crosswalk.
ramp out.
Right, so it would just be that one.
You'd have to, you gotta slow both sides though.
Right, because
The
there's,
road.
right, and, yeah,
So 20 feet probably, right, 20 feet concrete. Keep your ramps coming in, 10 feet both sides.
it's not a one,
That's
6 inch,
fine.
6 inch
That's fine.
curve, so 10 and 10, but is that bi-directional, because you're going up and down, so is it 10 from the bottom of the point
So I'm
to the
saying,
top on each side, so
you're
20?
gonna have to ramp down here, ramp down there.
Right, and what you're saying that, what is it, 1/20 or something?
1/20,
like that? So if it's a 6 inch curve, does that mean?
This-
you
this
have
will- this-
10 up and 10 down?
This will be flush here, right? So the same, we have like a eastern quarter. So I'm guessing 10 and 10, and then you get to replace wherever this, slope
Right,
here.
so it's 20 and 40, you got 10 and 10 on this side as well,
Yeah,
so 40,
so
so 80, and then just rough estimate, call it 100 feet.
100 times 4 is $4,000, right?
Yeah, okay,
Roughly $4,000 to $5,000.
so with that number, we should be okay with that number. Once you add the, call it 2,000 even. for
You got-
engineering,
you
and
got-
then
you got a
you
couple
got a
of-
contingency on
A
top of
couple
that.
of the detectable boarding surfaces, which are falling off.
Is that just concrete, Gary, or is that?
Yeah, that's just
insulated?
concrete.
That's not insulated.
That's just concrete that we had to hire out.
Right.
Does that include
Is that-
curvage?
Yeah, is that?
A little bit curved, a little bit curved, you probably got.
Right, what are those marble curves or granite
I think those
curves?
are-
So those would have to match. the
I can't
slope.
remember if they're marble or if they're concrete.
I know in front of our office is marble, but I don't know how far, if it jumps.
I
in
think it's
front of
concrete by that white realtor place, I can't remember now.
That is concrete for that.
Yeah.
So that would help us too.
Yeah, I don't know. off the top of my head.
And
Concrete
then-
curves is expensive, it's probably $40 a foot, but it's all the small units.
Sorry, what, $40 a foot
Yeah.
for curb?
Yeah, but concrete curve is between 35 and 40, because it's small quantity. Because they gotta order a 1 or 2 yards for now, a truck delivers, like it costs them more for the concrete.
Right, okay, well, new sidewalk. and
But you
curbs
the
is
curb
more
won't
like-
be very much, curb will only be like 10-foot section, say 20 feet.
They don't slope and follow the.
Well, they'll slope it down, but it'll be one section curb, it'll be one section curb.
It's all concrete curbing.
So,
There's all concrete curbing.
so that added on top of our rough estimate of 6,000, like it was 2,000 per curb.
Right there. That doesn't give you any.
Well, there is a contingency
There's a
built into
contingency.
the budget already, but that, that could get sucked up in anything.
Again, I have to see what the engineer is designing, I just don't want to throw something in, this should be the 288 standards. And that's why I want engineering, because you don't want to throw something that's not going to be 80. States like, no, you can tear it out, we do it.
Okay. The other question I had, where did those hay bales end up going? They're not included in this anymore? Wasn't there talk of hay bales?
There was-
The description says, planters, hay bales, I think it says like,
Bowls,
yeah, it's kind of options.
So just any kind of object.
Right, if
doesn't have
they
to
want to put
necessarily-
planters or hay bales or whatever. That's my understanding.
There's a question from Susie, here, did the trustees get the specs on the planners?
Not that I've seen.
On those sheets.
There's
The one back
options.
here,
They're just out of the same, yeah, if
just right here saying,
you flip through that, what you were just reading to the next pages,
Yeah,
there's a
okay.
couple, yeah, right there. Couple different options.
Just size wise, no specific. So I'm just gonna assume that the photos included with this new packet are not representative of what is actually gonna
yeah,
happen.
it just has a design line.
These are examples that Elizabeth forwarded to me this afternoon, just to give an idea of kind of the size and the dimensions and options that are out there for planters, and I believe this was taken straight from the Vital Village
Yeah.
studies, so.
So I'm gonna assume that the village is going to, I guess, adopt the planters after including the plants in them.
That was a question that was brought up in the beginning, who was gonna be responsible for planting, maintaining, and of the planters and whatever is planted in them, if it's gonna be volunteer or if that's gonna fall onto our highway department staff already.
One of the concerns that was brought up last night about putting in planters or hay bales or whatever is chosen was the obstruction of bikers in that lane. If you put them in, then they have to go out into traffic. So that was the other thing I wanted to mention. And then the last thing that the planning commission talked about quite a bit was the survey conducted by Dubois and King. The majority of the respondents for that survey did not support the project, but it is still moving forward. So that was a concern that was brought up by board members.
Was that the project as a whole or this specific?
I think it was specific. I said two, it's in the back of the packet. It has the survey responses by percentages. It was 41%.
Okay, this is, I'm sorry.
I don't have a
Yeah,
page number
it's,
for it.
yeah, the pages aren't numbered, but. Fourth one from,
Oh,
fifth one
okay.
from the back.
I just remember talking about the 41% last night.
So it looks like 28 is opposed,
39.
but
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
one that we were given.
That's the original one. It's for the original, the individual. I think this was back on the original Vital Village where it was, it talked about the quick build portions.
It's not in the grant application.
No.
no, the one that I'm seeing, there is a specific quick build for Dickinson and Maine.
That's from the original.
That's
That's
from the
the,
this is
application
from the
that's no
original.
longer included.
no, that was from the original one. I guess.
No, the one that I'm looking at looks like this.
Right, but that came from the original.
Yeah, that's from the original Vital Village.
So which one's the original, the one that's in?
The one I.
So what this,
So I guess that would confuse me why there's two survey numbers.
right, that's the thing, where's this coming from? Because if I'm looking at this, it's 28 strongly opposed and 32%.
But that's from the
Strongly
Vital Village,
supported.
which should have come directly into this
Was
application.
there two
Whereas
different
the
surveys that went out through the whole Vital Village process? Wasn't there one early on? and then
One
another
earlier, one later
recently?
on, right?
Where the recent one had a lot more opposition, I believe, than what was originally. And before we go too far, Susie does have a.
Yeah, okay, Susie?
Sorry.
Hi, Sam. So that was my question as well, is that survey on that particular piece. And frankly, as I'm listening to this, I'm beyond understanding why we're even having this elongated conversation about a safety issue. And I think it falls in your lap, Sam, in your board's lap on what to do best for the community. And I was trying to get a parent to come up forward saying, you've got small kids. How do you feel about them crossing Main Street? And they couldn't be there tonight because their kid has some sort of lesson. But it was like, frankly, a number of us have thought you need flashing red lights. So they're to the point where they think they need flashing red lights. This is about safety in our community and to try to do nothing to maintain the town as it is, which is kind of the voice speak around Vital Village, I don't think speaks to this particular safety issue about a crossing. So to say I'm frustrated is an understatement, but I'm confident the trustees will make the right decision.
Thank you, Susie.
Can I respond to that? Which I think the yellow light, the yellow signs with the person crossing with the flashing light, I think that's a better option than planters. I mean, that actually gets your attention and says, slow down, people are crossing here. Including the ones where you push the button and then they flash. Like, if it's really a safety issue, to me, that's a smarter, safer choice than,
I got a question. Are they still having crossing guards during school time? I know they used to have them.
I don't think so.
And don't we have crosswalk beacons in the general fund budget? And
Yeah,
wasn't that one of the intersections that was discussed placing it?
They were budgeted.
Yeah,
We do
we have
have-
4 of those.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really, that's a proven
in safety.
Huh?
Isn't part of the point of the planters or bump outs or whatever to be a traffic calming thing to actually slow traffic coming into those different areas, whether it be down by Depot or up in this area, like slowing traffic coming into our main downtown.
Not only that, but it also reduces the amount of time and distance that somebody has to cross.
Right.
So instead of starting way back on the sidewalk, you are now 5 feet farther and you are safer 5 feet sooner. That's, I think, the idea as well with the calming traffic.
Right, and to speak to the cycling, from what I researched is it does not pose a safety hazard.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm just relaying what was discussed.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back when
I'm
Mark Fenton, I did a couple of walks with him, he was a walkability person. And they seem to be like, they're safe.
Also, depending where that ramp is, I think we have to relocate a water service to that white. It's not thinking about, we have a water service curb stop somewhere there, and we have to relocate that behind the sidewalk.
For like a shut off,
Yeah.
water shut off.
Yeah, that white building, I think it's between the sidewalk and curb right now.
So what would be involved in that?
We'll just have to just turn that curb stop off, go back and cut out the curb. We have to dig a hole and put a new service in, or stand box and a new curb stop. It's not a big deal, but it's gonna be done.
Cost wise, minimum.
Yeah, probably take us 2-3 hours to dig it and then pretty much would replace it. It will be for the project. We already talked about that earlier. So.
Yeah. While you're into the water line thing, just keep.
Problem is finding pipe right now.
I just want to reiterate, my understanding from everything that was discussed last night in the planning commission, we're all on board with safety. And if relocating this crosswalk is truly the goal to make it more safe, then to me, it seemed like the board was very supportive of moving the crosswalk to the other side of the road. The major concern here is the planters and the bump outs. If, you know, I personally feel like those can be something that's added after the fact. The main project is moving the crosswalk. So I felt that a compromise was to do the project with the crosswalk moving and then do more research on these planners, see if it's a good idea, do that later on. There was a lot of comments back from EI members not supporting that. So then the board did come to the compromise of doing it in phases to get more information. So I personally, not speaking on behalf of the board, will say that if we do want to move the crosswalk for a safety issue, then move the crosswalk, but hold off on the planners until there can be more research done because of the time constraints of this application deadline.
Did the planning commission, I'm sorry, because I couldn't be there, but did the planning commission like have a timeline for the phases, like come back to us? Like, did you kind of establish a timeline of when the trustees or whomever would come back with the information on them? Like, could the phase potentially come back to you in time to be implemented into the project? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
is there a timeline?
No, so we didn't feel like that we were gonna have another meeting on this. It was pretty much last night was the one and done.
Oh, no, right.
We didn't think that we would have jurisdiction to make any more decisions on this project. So really the only thing that was said was that if planters were installed or chosen as the bump out option, then they would have to come from state recommendations and then be approved by the trustees.
From what I remember, Elizabeth had she had something in October of 2023 and something in October of 2024. And she just moved all of it to the last date.
Yeah.
So instead of having the planters for one October and the sidewalk for the next October, she just put it all to one in the grant. So there's no, we could do it in whatever order, as long as it's all done by October 2024, I think was for the grant timeline that Elizabeth was writing.
Yeah, she did change that for the sake of the grants time.
Carrie, I have a question for you. If planters are something that we would choose to hold off on or not do, is there something that the RISE match could go towards that would be spent in the time frame that would allow, because, you know, looking at this, the grant would be a match, you know, so the village doesn't have to give it
Well, I
funds.
mean, to buy the signs, maybe that crosswalk.
Buy the signs and pay for the engineering, maybe?
That would be something.
Are there any parameters on
On
the
that?
RISE grant funds? 'Cause I know we haven't gotten any
Yeah, by all
information
hardware.
if there's specifics that it can and cannot be
Skip
used
cards.
for.
That's to my knowledge, it'd be something to report in for, but I believe that, just in general, to put towards a safety, get people out and moving.
Cause you got those school, you know, crossing signs, you got probably 2 of those are probably at least $250 to $300 a piece, but then you have posts and all the,
Mhm.
you know. That's something.
Cindy has her hand up.
Sure.
No, you're fine. I just said after.
Cindy?
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering if the pavement was gonna be, you know, like a crosswalk, painted like a crosswalk. I can't remember if we discussed that. You know how you'd make the lines across the road?
Standard crosswalk, not like a
On this,
fluorescent green.
No, it's gonna be a white painted,
Yeah, I think it's just like
like we do
standard.
on all these, we don't paint them.
the state recommendations is recommend using temporary pavement marking tape and vertical.
The problem with the tape is unless it's new blacktop, it doesn't
That's
stay.
That's around the,
I don't know, just was reading it.
yeah, the planter section.
Yeah, 'cause the tape is the problem with tape is it's great, if you got new pavement, same with the thermoplastic stuff, it's great when it's new pavement and old stuff, so I wanted, back from that mindset, you wanna do thermoplastic on all this, but the guy I called, this Scott Slanker, says, don't do it, because it doesn't work on old pavement, it just will come up and it's 3 times as expensive as paint.
I think they're talking about though, with
Right,
the
okay,
delineator,
right.
that just so when you guys go into winter mode, you can rip them up, it's,
Yeah.
you know, then that way you don't have a weird
Right.
curve there in the middle of the road, so.
No plow anyways. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, that was my. So the signpost and location for the school crossing, that's not gonna be where our new flashing lights are gonna be.
No.
The new flashing lights are gonna be directly on the crosswalk.
Right, so this is just basically for warning that there's a crosswalk.
Okay.
So, okay. Yeah, that one probably going both ways, you know, one each side.
And we would have room, I know it says 100 feet. Would we have room if you're traveling south on Main? Or would that push you into the parking lot entrance?
You'd have to put it somewhere like maybe by the realtors of town hall, right? That's only there's a lot of pavement.
I'm talking up,
Oh, I mean, up towards,
like, you know, Rite Aid Rose.
right, yes, I know. what you're talking about.
Section deal there.
You couldn't put it in a.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, is 100 feet from the crosswalk. Does that put you in the middle of that thing?
I don't think. It'd be somewhere between the roses and that, I think, between the roses and the Rite Aid, somewhere in that area. You may
It's 100-foot minimum. So it could,
Yeah, you
work
could-
out to be 120.
Yeah, you may have to put it up,
Right.
you might put the green belt by the realtors or, you know, right before the town hall.
Right.
That's my guess.
Yeah, that's a ways up there though.
That's quite an opening. I don't know what that opening is. right?
Yeah.
That's gonna be close to 100 feet between the last end of the guardrail up to the, yeah.
100 yards. All right, let's just see what old technology.
Maybe app.
I don't think we have money. Because if we're looking,
I can go measure them, or go look and tell you how
all
far it
right,
is.
that's the realtor's building.
Yep.
So if we're putting the sidewalk, or
Some-
that like
somewhere
white
in
car,
there,
is,
yeah,
you don't have 100 feet there, and you'd have to move it
Way
all
up
the
to
way
you.
up to town offices. Is there a maximum, do we know, maximum distance for that sign? Because we're not gonna get 100 feet there.
Once you put it with a curb right, where Mark has his,
That little section here.
you know, right where's the island is, but
Yeah.
up by the edge of the curb, you probably could put it there, wouldn't be the way, because, you know, we're gonna drive that. It's right. So different than our sign over by Jolly, that's right in the pavement, that people always run over.
Yeah, I think that'll have to be addressed as well. Well, thinking out loud here, does it have to be on the same side of the street as
Well, you
traffic?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you'd have to.
No. Ward, you got a question?
It's a comment. It seems to me that, well, there's three pieces. The crosswalk, the planters, and the bump out. I get the impression from participating last night and tonight that there's general agreement on moving the crosswalk with some uncertainties about the details. I do not agree that I have not observed that there's agreement that bump outs are a good idea for Enosburg, or that the planters are a good idea for Enosburg. If we were to agree to all three of those, the details that are being discussed now, all to me provide excellent input for somebody or some buddies who have to do the work, like Jesse and the road crew for the town. If you were to then work out one piece of paper that said, this is what our best fix, given all these comments, and then people had a look at it and a walk around, we could then have a clear decision on whether to do either of those two things or not. And if should the decision be not, you give that money back. But I was surprised. I was surprised and disappointed last night that the details that Jesse provided some details that I thought were very useful, but that hadn't been done for everything and put on one piece of paper that everybody could look at. That would have helped, I think, all of us. So my vote
Elizabeth,
would be,
this question is,
yeah, I'll shut up.
sorry, well, there's a lag. So Elizabeth, if we go a route similar to what Ward suggested, and by that I mean I'm assuming phase number one is moving the crosswalk. And if we come to the conclusion that we don't need or want phase two, is there still, can we still give the remainder of the money back without any penalty?
Yes,
Or
absolutely.
does doing phase one constitute accepting
No.
and using the money?
If you opt not to do part of the project, then you just give the money back.
So
That makes a difference.
So any unspent funds, so if we go with phase one and not phase two, we would just turn over any funds that we did not expense.
Correct.
So then in the grant, the pledge to match isn't to any specific thing, so if you wanted to do it that way, then it could go towards signage and engineering or something.
Can I go for a waiver for the guys and any demo work that they have to do?
Well, that's in-kind work, right? That's in-kind.
Yeah, there's also included.
I understand that, but because we have such
I
a
don't-
short deadline on those funds,
All right, prepay our guys.
we need to,
I think engineering and signage would set that up though. I mean, if you're talking 15 for that and then signs are $200 a piece,
Sure.
you're
Right.
pretty well on the edge of that $2,000.
Going by being a previous recipient of the grant for different work stuff, I think there's a lot of flexibility as long as it went towards the project, which is around public safety and helping people walk within their community.
Yeah, crosswalk paint, signage, engineering.
Yeah,
That'll
so-
cover it.
Promise I don't pay, like, right now, I don't know what it's gonna cost, but last year we had a shortage and couldn't get paint.
As long as it's under, we're all set.
Yeah.
So
obviously,
Get some house paint.
So basically, I think like, should we want to do this and have Rise, that can be a match, like, I think you or Abby would write something to Amy with we would like X amount of money and we would assume to use it for X, Y, and Z. For the project.
Okay.
Again, right now, even the sign posts and signs are, there's shortage on those. Right now, we're having a hard time getting posts.
There you go.
It's gonna be an awful year.
I just go over the middle of it.
Yeah, put your mask on.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of weeks I think flying.
All right, does anybody else have any other questions? I have run out.
Cindy. have your hand up.
Cindy?
Yes, I was wondering, we're talking about the signs and where to put them over by La Rose's. Where are the signs now?
They're on the crosswalk. They're fairly close to the crosswalk. Yeah.
So- We already have signs. Can't we just move those signs and not buy other ones?
I don't know if I did, I'm not sure. These are showing fluorescent green ones.
Pardon?
The problem is where to put them, not.
Not the actual purchases, so, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't really answer that question. Maybe we can use the ones that we already have. Maybe they
If
don't.
they're high vis, we can use them.
Right.
I don't know if they're high vis or not.
thank you.
Look at that. They appear to be good. We may just need to buy the head portion and get rid of the arrow. But, you know.
The little bolt.
Anything else?
And then I assume, should the village receive this grant, like like we oversee this project moving forward. That's the way it goes. So the village would be finding the engineer. On us.
Say that again?
Yeah, so should we apply for this, receive the funds, like we would be, the village office would be looking to putting out the proposals for the engineering.
When New Boys King do it, I mean, they've gone that far, we just hired New Boys King to do that. I mean, they've already got that far, they probably got.
But I think what she's saying would
Oh,
be the
right.
responsibility of the
Of
village
us.
to find the engineer and to facilitate.
Right, to
all
basically carry out the
of
project.
it's basically be the general contractor, essentially overseeing everything for this project.
From Dubois and King. Okay, any other questions? We're ready to make a decision. Not everyone at once now, come on.
I'm refusing.
Okay, Sandy has recused herself. That leaves the three of you.
Not to put any of you in the hot seat or not.
Right.
I like the compromise proposal of kind of shifting like not looking to get the planters immediately. I think moving the crosswalk is a major safety concern, and I think if we have the ability to address that, it'd be really great if we could. But I do think that more conversation needs to go into whether or not we make decisions to do the planters with that.
I'm much more comfortable with the phased in approach. Jumping in head first.
So we would also need to,
Is that,
there are conditions that we also need to agree to. Those being follow the recommendations from the ADA.
AOT, yeah, from beach.
And then we would also have to do the project in phases. I'm assuming crosswalk first,
right,
Yes, that was.
and then, yeah, we can't change anything else. So those are the three conditions, so. If you both like the phases. Do you like the phases? And moving the crosswalk as opposed to the bump out?
start with moving the
First.
crosswalk.
The crosswalk first. The only thing that I have concern about is the width of our street. And if we put these flower pots out there, the people that travel the street every day are familiar with that. But let's say two tractor trailer trucks are coming and they see that, and they're both gonna like go to the center.
That's true, that street's pretty wide right there.
I think that's why we're gonna do the phases.
Phases first.
Start with the crosswalk.
Yeah.
Then we can have more discussion about the planters and I think everyone here is on board with moving the sidewalk and making it safer.
Yes.
Something else, I think-
Crosswalk.
And I think,
Your turn.
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah,
those
I'm trying
flashing
to-
crosswalk signs will help too.
Absolutely.
I know even though we're by parks, I'm scared of I had a woman crossing, this truck was coming, and I don't even saw her, I'm like flashing my lights. Yeah.
Right, there's another, that's an example of a really, really long walk, and that's. Okay, so it sounds like everyone is in agreement on at least phase one of this, which means that that's a yes.
That's a yes.
So do I have a motion to?
I'll make a motion.
All right,
And I'll second.
Eli with the first, I heard Heather with the second. All those in favor of accepting this grant application, say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay.
Elizabeth, do we need to have all the trustees obviously sign off on at least the signature page and get that back to you for this moving forward for Monday?
Yeah, and Shaylee, please.
And do you have,
Do we have a clean copy or do you want to see it right
I
now?
think we can handle this one and I can just send that one back. So Sam, I'll pass it down. Are you good, comfortable with everything? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, make sure the conditions reflect, what they,
Yeah, the conditions will be in the minutes, so you guys will have a copy of that moving forward when you do revisit the issue so that you can look back on the specifics.
I was just saying their motion to reflect. You,
Oh.
you're.
When I
Yes,
type
the
up the
motion
minutes,
will
The
it'll be
motion would
clear.
reflect
Accepting
that,
planning commission.
Yes, yeah, it'll
Yeah.
clearly state that.
I just say while people are signing things, I really appreciate the extra work that people put into figuring out the last details of this grant. It's definitely a learning experience of doing something like this.
You're still trustee.
Hopefully, we'll do better next time. And yeah, I know it was a lot of inconveniences and a lot of extra meetings. And I think next time, communication will probably hopefully be more streamlined. And it'll be clearer.
Susie has her hand up.
Go ahead, Susie.
Leave us a new one.
I have a concern, or maybe it's, thank you first of all to the board. So the EI is just a name that somehow came upon the way. We have no board, we have no checkbook, we have no status. And we have tried to come up with ways to improve things for the town. And we've invited trustees and select boards continuously to come to our meetings, to join in the conversation, to hear what citizens have to say. On occasion, it's been hard to get that participation. So then we try to attend your meetings and the select board meetings to convey what's going on. We dropped the ball on communication with planning and development, admittedly so. And I think, when you have your next meeting, Shaylee, it'd be great to know when they are, so we could come and let you know some of the thoughts that are percolating around town. However, if anybody attends a meeting and they're a trustee or a select board, it's very discouraging to think that they have to recuse themselves from a conversation or vote. And I understand Sandy's being very sensitive to that because she's been very involved. But the EI is no true organized group. We're a group of people and it changes constantly. And it could be somebody's interested in painting a fence. So they are, quote, part of the EI for that project. And then we never hear from them again. And I feel that it's, I don't want people from these boards to feel they can't attend or listen or join in the conversation of other citizenry. And that if they do so, they can't engage at a board level or cast a vote. I don't think that's fair. Now, if they were part of the EBA as a organized board and they were bringing forward a proposal, that seems very, very apt. And I know we're a small town. Everybody's related to everybody and everybody's on a lot of boards. And we simply don't have the luxury of recusing over everything. And I want to encourage people to attend these meetings, not avoid them, because then if they come, they can't speak up. I don't know if that's clear, what I'm trying to convey here. And maybe Shauna,
I think that was well
is that
said,
clear to
yeah.
you? Maybe you should add something. Okay, thank you.
I agree with Susie, like, we're a small town. Thankfully, we have a great core of people who attempt to be involved in things and betterment and improvements. And a lot of times these people are parts of a lot of different organizations. And so, yeah, I think it's great if we can all work together and not feel like, you know, like Eli can't come to an EI meeting because what are they gonna say? Or like a select person like Dean or somebody couldn't come to an EI meeting, or, you know, vice versa. So I hope that we can all kind of have a spirit of working together. And I think I was totally off. Planning commission was not even on my radar. And I'm actually really interested about that. So I hope to be able to catch some of those meetings in the future too. I concur what Susan said.
All right, thank you. All right, does that wrap up this agenda item? If so,
And thank you.
we will move on to Trout Brook study with Brian Ovitt. Evening, Brian.
So thanks for listening to us, because I know it's a special meeting. This is pretty critical.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Critical thing to talk about. You guys have noticed. Chance to read the letter from Wayne. I think he speaks better than I, so I might give you just those if you haven't. But essentially, the department feels exactly the same. What we're looking to hope is hopefully ask the board if they would consider waiving the procurement policy and actually following Wayne's recommendation. Well, to give me that
For the engineering.
No.
for the project
For the whole
and accept
project.
Phil Laramie's quote.
Original quote, and you told them the original quote was way above what this was, this person.
Wayne's estimate was about 97.
Yep.
I'm just gonna give you guys minutes. It's all pretty much in
Should know.
there. I got a couple.
I have extra copies.
You got it.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure I put it in the packet. Hold on a minute.
We're talking home and building or same building, just new equipment?
He's gonna reuse, so he amended some of Wayne's original engineering considerations, came up with a much cheaper alternative that Wayne supports entirely. When I approached John with this a little while ago, he thought we should take this gentleman's concept and put it out to bid, and I and Wayne both don't feel like that's a very fair approach. But we also don't feel like we're gonna get much of any from anybody else quoting a project. We ran into the same thing last year. Right, clarifier project. There just aren't a lot of small contractors out there that do this sort of work.
Sean, you want-
Same building, just new equipment inside.
Yep, we're basically gonna strip everything out, put some pedestal pumps in there, use that as a wet well, and tie into the existing portion.
I think that, not to cut and Brand, but the reasoning of asking to waive the procurement policy, like Brand said, is Phil's design is a little bit, is engineered differently than what was originally planned, so it doesn't seem fair to ask people to bid in on his engineering
His idea.
plan and his idea essentially, so that's why Brian is asking the procurement policy to be waived on this to move forward, because A, it's significantly cheaper and it's a different, unique design that wouldn't be fair to ask other engineers to kind of come in on as well.
And you've worked with this company before and you're comfortable with that.
It
was-
very comfortable.
It was Wayne's idea.
Wayne had the initial concept, Phil sort of modified some of his ideas, and came up with a much cheaper proposal. We worked with Phil last year on a quoted project that we actually helped him out with. He finished it early. I can't remember, I think he took $5,000 off the
Yeah.
quote.
That sounds about right.
Very reliable, trustworthy guy.
Yeah, because that project did come in significantly under what was initially budgeted. I think it was budgeted closer to 50. I think it was only 38,000 in the long run, so.
The one thing that's not included is the electrical for this project. That'd be our own electrician, figuring about 5,000 to 10,000.
If that equipment fails, it's gonna be a pretty stinky situation.
Well,
The chain, you pull up the chain.
it's, anything's more reliable than what we have right
Right, that's
now.
all.
We talked about
Is that
this
with
in
the
past.
new, like, alarms and monitors and all
Yep,
that stuff?
exactly.
And
Yep.
this would make it safer for you
much-
guys, right?
Much safer scenario for the department, for sure.
That's pretty much outdated.
It's, yeah, we can't get parts. We're limping along as it is, and we're really hoping to get this project pushed through as quickly as possible. Now you're hearing with everything else, equipment, getting any kind of product is kind of out there.
You're looking, even a little chemical heat pumps, 4 to 8 weeks out.
We waited almost 3 months.
You couldn't go 3 months with that station down.
No, because then we have to bring our back truck in and out of there, and that's significantly more dangerous. than
That's
building.
not a very nice entrance.
Is that for 3 or 4 houses?
3.
Well, sounds like a no-brainer to me. Wayne knows his stuff. And the sooner we get this rolling, the better.
I trust Brian's judgment. He knows what's going on.
Gary said he spent all the money here at crossing 105 and 108. Can we afford to
The
do
leak was on
this?
Pearl Street, remember?
That was water, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Different budget, we're all different.
All right, if we're all on board, need a motion to, waive the procurement policy and go ahead with this project. Eli with the first, Sandy with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
I really appreciate you guys supporting. You always really seem to listen to us. I appreciate it.
No
Well, you
problem.
always seem to really know what you're talking about. so that's
I
fine.
I feel like I mumble and stuff.
No, you're just
Hopefully my
fine.
points get out there.
You guys are the boots on the ground, so.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Sam, before we go into executive,
Thanks, Sean.
I want to circle back to the transportation grant.
Hi,
and
Shara.
Do we need to make a motion for somebody to request funds from Rise Vermont?
We haven't even had the application, or
It's
how does
not
that
really,
work?
it's just like either you or Sam, one of the two of you should just email Amy and say that we would like to use, that the village would like to use the funds. And just like a quick little email, and it would be used for stuff related to the project,
Yeah, materials associated with.
materials associated with
The
it.
build.
You could, if you want, to like, say that we're holding off on planters for right now, since that was her original thought. Let's use them on planters, and then she would,
Towards engineering signage.
yeah, and then it's like a one-page sheet agreement, is what Rise Vermont does.
Just to sign off on.
Yeah, they're so super simple.
I have no problem drafting that if you would like me to. It's-
And, yeah, I can sign it if the board wants.
I can draft a letter tomorrow and get it signed on letterhead to make it official, and then I can email it to Amy.
Okay, yeah, and that's all she needs. Not even
Okay.
really an application.
I guess I would like a motion to grant me permission to reach out to Amy Brewer from Rogers Vermont to accept the $2,000 match for the quick build grant.
I'll move.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second that.
Okay, Eli the first, Heather the second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, that's unanimous. Any other business? Hearing none, I'll hear a motion to move into executive session for discussion of personnel. Thanks for coming in.
Aye. I'll move.
Eli with the first or second,
I'll second that.
Leonard with the second, all those in favor of entering executive say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay,